Hey, y'all. This is Reverence for Impulse, and I'm Weena Pauly-Tarr. This podcast is my attempt to more deeply understand and explore impulse through conversations with people that inspire me. We step into connection without any planning or agenda, but with respect for the impulses that brought us here and shape how we are when we're together. I'm so glad you followed your impulse to listen in. I kind of stumbled upon Daniel Bear by accident. A mutual friend had posted about a class he was offering, and I saw the words somatic experiencing and authentic movement and dance, and that was enough for me to lean in. I thought, hey, who is this guy? How do we not know each other? And he's not even that far away. So I shot him a quick message asking if he was up for connecting over our shared passions, and he was totally game. Then I resisted the urge to Google him and wanted to first just have a phone call and feel into how it was to just talk together. Daniel was so gracious and kind, and I followed my impulse right there to invite him to meet on the podcast. I knew so little about him and was so curious what would happen if I held to my original intention of this podcast experiment and ask what happens when two people come together with only an intention to have a conversation without any plan or preparation. Again, he was there for yes and. And so we did. It was a total pleasure. And even though as a new parent, he had understandable time restraints, it felt like a quick dip in a cool mountain river that we both relished. I'm hoping we can take a longer swim next time and explore some deeper waters. Here is my first dip with Daniel Bear. That's my absolute most favorite way to meet someone.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well met.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I don't know if it's because I've done a little more authentic movement recently than I guess I just did it yesterday, but there's um I like dropped in and I was like, oh, I could be here for a few hours. Like I just sometimes it feels like a delicious spot and sometimes it's fraud or whatever. But today I was like, just wanna
Mm-hmm.
have had a lot of external interaction and engagement and teaching
Mm-hmm.
and that jump into mover right away is like, and then watching was like, total mystery. I think that's the part that I love. Like, I've never met you, Daniel.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are. I've
Mm-hmm.
only read a little bit here and there. We had a brief phone conversation, and then we're doing authentic movement together over Zoom. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a delight to see someone and and hold the mystery of them as they're moving around and their eyes are closed.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about meeting in a sub-social space, getting to meet what moves through us or how it moves through us before meeting kind of whatever personality, organization, personality kind of structures. Try to control that or have their
Mm-hmm.
patterns with that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I
Mm-hmm.
actually came from facilitating a 2 hour group um, this morning, 2 hour
Me
authentic
too.
group. So great. Yeah, and I got to move this time. So it felt
Oh, good.
like a nice kind of continuation. Some of the seeds from that last practice got to kind of move forward into this, which was nice for me.
What is the group that you're facilitating?
It's the one that caught your eye on
Oh,
social media that has connected us. I call it Web Nest Earth Home. And the idea is using authentic movement kind of as our main practice, but bringing in threads from somatic experiencing, frames from cultural somatics, and just letting some of these other wisdom traditions rub against each other and see what they do to each other.
mm, God, that sounds so good. So like something I want to jump into.
Yeah, it's a pretty special group right now. We did an 8 week committed series, and then most of the people in this next iteration decided to continue, and a few new people joined. So it's been a nice kind of deepening, and it feels like simultaneously personal practice and also these nice little inquiries around what is it that we're doing and what else can we bring to it. It's super sweet.
Mm. I love that you also moved because I think sometimes what I feel is missing, specifically in the group I'm running now, but it has a very specific focus because it's for SEPs and therapists and psychotherapists. And
Oh, cool.
but I don't um do the practice because I'm co-facilitating and we're sort of holding a pretty specific focus and agenda.
Hmm.
But part of what I love is that flattening of expertise that happens in AM. So when the
Yeah.
facilitator moves too, it's like, God, it's such a relief to not. I mean, I always fear that it's being looked at as example. That's
Hmm.
always like a thing I hold. Like, this is not how to do it or,
Hmm.
um, and I think that goes away pretty quickly as it's repeated. Do you find that to be true?
I do. We are mostly working in pairs in
Hmm.
this context. So and if there's an odd number and I'm out if there's an even number. So that kind of
Yeah.
makes that simple. We did one open circle the end of the last series. By then, yeah, there's enough trust in the room, enough, at the beginning, I'm really clear either to partner with someone who I have um, prior movement relationship with, or to be, see if anyone wants to volunteer to partner with me before everyone else pairs up,
Hmm.
so that someone isn't stuck with teacher,
Yeah.
having that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do find, there's so much wisdom in the room, and that becomes so evident in the sharing over time, um, that it feels pretty easy by the end to be decentered and
Hmm.
have that kind of horizontality of
Mm.
learning together. And that's so much, that frame of cultural somatics of where bodies inside of bodies inside of bodies inside of bodies, with this idea that I'm having some personal experience here, that I'm doing only my own therapeutic work. We've kind of decentered that enough over the course of our explorations that um, there's, yeah, the collective and what comes out of it is kind of built into, is the teacher as much as anything I might offer. I just get to be a timekeeper,
Yeah.
throw some seeds out.
Right. Push go.
Mhm.
I'm so it is very exciting to me, and it just happened this morning where I was reminded of this movement towards, I hate the word transformation. Change or shift happening through a relationship rather than apart from. Um I grew up in a, very sort of therapy heavy
Mhm.
psychoanalytical environment, not of my own choice. But the idea is kind of like go like get your shit fixed so you can be ready. So you can be ready to get out there and have proper healthy relationships. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking even in the beginning, really like I can't imagine that works. And so it's like, and I think it's something that drew my husband and I together so clearly from the beginning was we were both very clear that the healing and the change, I would say, that we were seeking, the growth was going to happen within a relationship.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's something I'm seeing all around
Hmm.
in group work. I feel more interested in group work. I love individual work and it serves such an important function and I still receive it. So but there's something about this idea of healing in relationship, which I guess you could argue is happening in a therapeutic setting because you're in a relationship. But there's something about having um, more constellations of people that you're bumping up against and being influenced by that can shape you in ways you couldn't have imagined.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's that whole idea that trauma is isolation, and one of the major symptoms is isolation. So this idea that we're going to come into these isolated separate processes to heal that, is pretty silly. And, the one-on-one therapeutic space simplifies a lot. It's some containment. And I don't know, for me, it's becoming more and more important inside of those spaces to acknowledge who are we doing the work with, um, who else, what else is here, as we're in this space that is focused on you, or, focused on the client. Yeah.
When
And
you
then,
say
and
who
then
else
is,
is here, go ahead.
oh, please.
Well, I was just curious when you say what else is here, like, do you have direct ideas of what you mean when you say that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's um, the birds outside and the way the sun's coming through the window, and sometimes it's about some pet that showed up in a memory, and that pet also being here, some loved one that's passed. It can be an ancestral piece, or just kind of very literally these plants around me that are shaping our experience of this room in this moment. So pretty wide.
Yeah.
And sometimes, people are calling in whatever support they need. And so that's a more immediate way of like, oh yeah, my awareness of my people is what is getting me through this moment. So let's acknowledge that even as your body's the only one here, all of those connections to what keeps us going are also present with us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my like little nod to like, we're in this little box. This
Mm-hmm.
is what we can do right now inside of the structure of our life. And this box doesn't stop at the walls. Let's keep doing the work all together.
I guess one could argue that there's no such thing as healing in isolation, because you're probably always in some group setting that's either acknowledged or not, right? And then
Yeah.
maybe it's just about the frame that we're using,
Mm-hmm.
that's whether it's isolating or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm. Doggy play date happening over here.
No, nice. I've got the Zoom dissociation. I heard some little ruffle of something, but
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel, are you a dancer? Are you? I mean,
yeah, one of those time questions, right? Yeah, I've spent a lot of my life as a dancer. I am a access syllabus teacher. I've taught contact improvisation through much of my life. I used to make interdisciplinary performance work, weaving all kinds of different things. So that's my background from Once Upon a Time.
mm-hmm.
And now I'm a whole lot more a father than dancer. I get out onto a dance floor when I teach twice a week right now, and um, once a month or so in terms of some kind of personal practice. And yeah, my creative energy is all going into family right now.
Yeah. What ages?
2.5 and one on the way.
Oh, my gosh. This is the fiery time. That was my fiery time.
There's a lot of fire in my little one, for sure.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
I kind of have something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I've been You had named impulse as kind of the thread that
Mm-hmm.
weaves all your podcasts together. And so I was chewing on impulse this morning, and mostly this morning. And I thought about how often it gets me into trouble, like particularly in parenting. If I'm going to have the impulsive response to what my kid just did, like that's not going to go well. And um, and I was starting to. I've been hunting for this word in different sessions, like in the past 2 weeks, and failing to find it. And this morning, the word inhibition showed up, and um, so it's actually what we played with in our class today, in our group today, is impulse and inhibition. And I got really curious about, yeah, how authentic movement invites those, and also how SE deals with those. And inhibition, not as like the way we usually frame it, as like the thing that keeps the impulses from coming, but this idea of how do I make enough space to not just kind of fire off the first thing, but to like be in inquiry with it, feel where it's coming from, learn more about it, and then see what else is possible, and get into how I understand a depth of improvisation where I'm moving into unknown territory, where I'm orienting to the emergent and seeing like, um, yeah, how does inhibition help me get to choice was the way it got clarified through our group today.
Mm,
Not inhibition as now I'm stuck in freeze, but inhibition as like um, slowing things down enough to get to the unfamiliar.
mhm. I love that. That's not a word I've brought in, but I say often there's a relationship to impulse. So it's not always about follow. And that's not how I offer authentic movement. If I'm guiding, it's more like have a relationship to impulse. And so one of my explorations is around not responding or not
Mm-hmm.
following, which
Mm-hmm.
sounds like that kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
um, which is also an impulse. That's where I was like, I had a friend on the podcast and we got into this sort of theoretical or maybe philosophical conversation about impulse itself. And it kept going down. And then we sort of landed at like, well, everything is an impulse then.
Mm.
So, like, what distinguishes the impulse to move from the impulse to not to then
Mm-hmm.
pause or slow down? Like, that's also so it became this sort of like Russian doll moment of
Yeah, yeah.
unpacking impulse and realizing that I don't know, I guess relationship to it. I don't know how you feel, but there's sometimes this is something I'm struggling with currently is my experience of authentic movement is not well, that's not true. Uh is not um or how can I say it? I'm not inviting in the tracking of my relationship to impulse. I'm just doing it. And sometimes that's there, but that's not when I'm really and maybe it's because I'm framing my practice in different spaces and in different ways. Like it serves kind of different functions, I would almost say.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, I guess what is it when I'm not oriented toward impulse in such a intellectual way, like, that I feel that. Now how am I choosing to be with it? And am I gonna like that's something I can get lost in. There's a place which I'm sure you have your own language for where there's really no conscious tracking. And maybe it's flow state. Sometimes it literally feels like not even mine. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
channeling, right? Or
Yeah.
right. And so then at that point, the relationship that I try talking about is I don't know if it's really even present. Do you know what I mean?
Probably yes, no.
Right.
Yeah. I very much um, can resonate with the experience of well, I understand it as moving through as opposed to like me
Mm.
moving.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where I experience what I think you're describing as flow state. Um, and for me, there's still this kind of weaving between um, subconscious and then noticing, and then it's coming to the conscious, and it gets good when I'm not grabbing onto it, right? And for me, that's where this inhibition thing took me was like, okay, there's something moving through. And I personally have my addiction to a certain level of stimulus, right? Like I want to feel the things, or I have my certain ways that I know that I'm fixing, right? That I'm doing something, that something's
Yeah.
happening. And so for me, in yeah, not going to those places, um, it's funny how I spend so long kind of just still in a blank place today
Yeah.
that I just noticed it come back. Yeah, there's something in the weaving between subconscious, conscious, noticing I'm in this like uh empty stillness for a while. And so there's a level of tracking and consciousness in that, but also not like an attachment to that changing anytime soon
Yeah.
or needing to control it. And yeah, I guess that's where the edge is for me. Is like it's about control, or can I slip through the known patterns into um into a new way of following, I mean, as a contact dancer, I know how to deal with myself upside down and turned around in every which way. And like I my attention, like I track really um hyper vigilantly and virtuosically, I would say. And so yeah, to figure out the way out of that,
Mm,
um and still be present, whatever that
mm,
means, is it's a gift when it can happen.
yeah. When they when the feel it's like accompanying something. I mean, for me it feels like I also feel, I want to sink down into those deep dark waters, but I do breach for air, and I surface and I go back down. But there's certainly, I would say, I'd be lying if I didn't say there's some inherent desire to go down and in
Mm,
deep, and to
mhm,
lose the surface completely, to lose the need for air.
mhm,
But I'm there and I'm conscious and I'm in relationship. So
yeah,
when I become aware of being witnessed, I can breach.
uh-huh,
But really, I think what you're describing is outside of that drive to just go all the way down. If I'm feeling more reasonable,
mhm,
it's like riding that whale, not being the whale, but like riding it,
mhm,
accompanying
mhm,
it.
yeah, 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 it's a really useful word.
Mm.
Yeah,
Without deciding the timing or the depth, or yeah. It's
yeah,
tricky. It is a gift. I think, and it's funny, last the last rehearsal I had, my friend and I realized we have not done contact improv in decades.
mhm,
And so our assignment was do contact for 10 minutes.
mm,
And we were so clunky and terrible. No one was
yeah.
listening. Just all elbows and banging and like horrible senses of each other, unable to, which is not my memory of it. My memory of it is when it's really there, the, you're so focused on listening and responding, but almost does the same thing. And I just thought is such a great example of how when you don't flex that muscle, it's just not really as
Mm,
strong as it is, as it can
mm.
be. Or, um, but like, have you done contact improv as authentic movement, or like eyes closed contact?
In my life, yeah, for sure. Um, and you name context as being so important, right? Like the context of what intention the different environments um, are for. And yeah, for me, those two practices, they're both lifelong practices for me, and they kind of teach each other, but they're really different things. I
Yeah.
go to them for. Um, we were working with touch at the end of my last series, and starting with the touch of attention, right? Like kind of bringing in some of Kathy Kane's ideas into our authentic movement practice. Like, okay, can I notice as the witness what's the texture or quality, what's the density or focus of my touch, of my attention, right? Like just beginning that with that. Am I watching from this kind of detailed thing where my focus is just here? Am I watching from so broad that I'm like holding the walls that are holding this person? Um, and then yeah, to bring in touch gradually from that place. And we actually did I did invite um, language into authentic movement for like communicatory language, in that, like really being able to go into active witness, go into offering of resistance or containment, or kind of we were
Mm.
working with different kind of qualities of touch, and the witness could bring touch in from that way, and the mover could either respond to what was happening or ask for something really specific. Um,
And are they eyes closed and open as traditional roles?
the witness is eyes open. Um, we kind of got rid of the rigidity of eyes closed from the start in my group. Most people still do it, but I find often instead of what you were naming of like wanting to dive and stay down, I keep finding more and more that I'm finding the kind of arcs we talk about in SC that I just went through a whole thing and I'm in an integration phase, and it feels really good to see the sky and see out the window and see the birds flying by and see the other people in the room, and to let that be like not more or less than when I'm have my eyes closed and I'm tracking what's inside my flesh body. Letting the weaving between context and content be more fluid.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, usually the kind of basic was, yeah, there's the mover who's mostly eyes closed, and there's the witness whose eyes open.
Hmm. Gosh, it's so exciting to hear about the touch piece because I'm mostly working online because people are in South Africa and Brazil, and it's like there's no location's not an option really.
Yeah.
So it's so much of our exploration is around seeing and being seen, and these are all sighted people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've done a couple. All my stuff that I do is in person, personally. So it's an interesting translation that has to keep going back and forth, and
Mm-hmm.
for me, and
Yeah.
hearing you, I'm like, oh yes, like how exciting. And also, I can imagine we just spoke a lot about power differential and how, ways that I talk about eyes closed and open, sort of replicating predator prey and
Mm-hmm.
energy, vulnerability and control, or removing one faculty of orientation instantly makes you vulnerable. What is the pattern that shows up when you're seen as vulnerable? How do you, so much of what our
Mm-hmm.
conversation is around that, like
Yeah.
how do as a witness, what pattern shows up when I see you in vulnerability or assume vulnerability, right? Because some
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
when their eyes are closed, they feel incredibly powerful. They're hidden.
Yeah.
And for some people, witnessing is wildly vulnerable, like brings up levels of permission and
Yeah.
agency. And so those are we're working in layers of seeing and being seen, sometimes
Yeah.
hearing,
This is within
but
the SC, is this the SCP group?
seen. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Also with regular folks, like for some people who've never done authentic movement, especially online, the way we move online into Zoom is through language and sight.
Right.
So to not speak and not see is so weird. You're just like standing in front of your computer, like what?
Uh-huh.
With some stranger looking at you. It's
Uh-huh.
weird.
Uh-huh.
And so we talk about it. And then through repetition, what starts to happen is the frame of it becomes familiar. So they can kind of rest back into that
Mm-hmm.
and really be with what keeps showing up. Um, but touch is one that I mean, it's no, let's be, for me to be very transparent, it's no mistake that touch isn't a huge part of my work right now.
Yeah.
Like that's an edge for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's why I was interested in what you were just saying, because I can imagine if there was contact bringing in, but somebody's eyes were open and mine were closed, the charge for me would take time to work through,
Yeah.
to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think again that was like way late in our series where there was a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. I hear you. Um,
But it happens sometimes with authentic in my group where two people are doing authentic movement. We have all these structures we've named, and one of them is called Joni style, after my daughter because I had to nurse her while they were in. So we had like this rolling thing where we passed the baby to the witness that was available.
wow. Uh-huh. I love it.
So it's called Joni style. And when when there are two people out sometimes because they overlap, they would make contact sometimes, but both of their eyes are closed. And so it was always a little bit of like watching how they contend with contact, which is
Yeah.
so interesting,
Yeah.
so honest, so
Hmm.
revealing. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. When I'm seeking back a little while. I feel like I did have a context where we were really exploring that, where it was kind of an acknowledgement of like, I'm in my thing. I'm going to project all over you because my eyes are closed. Your eyes are closed. You're going to be projecting on me. We're both going to be working with, are we moving towards this? Are we moving away from this? So there's a like reminder and confirmation of agency in that as much as it's, possible to access. Um, and when there's trust in this space, like how cool that we can do that. That like, how else am I going to work with the resistance I need to feel? And actually like pushing up against something that's meeting me. And I don't get to have that experience by myself.
Right.
I can, early pandemic, it was okay, we'll have that with the tree, we'll have that with the soft earth or the moss. But there's something about getting to be in all those different states and all those kind of energetic organizations and be met or be with, um, that I think is pretty important to the human experience.
And so worth practicing too. I think I remember an edge for me early on, a long time ago, was feeling contact and feeling that person want to engage, and really being like, I don't want to be in your
Mm-hmm.
thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And learning how to do that without being so sneaky, like
Right.
literally just the, letting go of the care and the need to take care of that moment for that
Mm-hmm.
person, or assuming whatever it meant to them, and all the complications that come in saying no, right? And like
Yeah.
learning how to do it just physically was such a great it's I mean, I love that about authentic movement, because without language, you're feeling the no, the desire, the impulse.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the choice, you do it, and then you're with the repercussions of the rippling out, like all the stuff that comes for you from that moment. But you're not verbalizing it and moving it out. You're kind of like, "Whoa, I'm with this." And where does it lead you next? And knowing
Mm-hmm.
it's being seen, like your no or your insecurity or clunkiness with that moment in yourself is being witnessed. I love that.
Mm. Yeah. How
And maybe
much?
that's always true, but we
Maybe
just
it's
don't
not
see it.
always true that there's the kind of implicit intention towards accepting all of that. To know that everything is seen in a way
Right.
where it's like everything's exposed. That
Okay, yeah.
either can feel great because it's like in the fold, and there's that um, welcome and curiosity and care as part of the container, or there's the spotlight on the judgment and the what's the story of ineffectiveness or not good enough. I think that's probably one of the great, for me, that's one of the great gifts that authentic movement has, is like we've all been seen a lot, and we've all been seen with a lot of different gazes and a lot of different like all those ways that attention touches. They're not all kind. Attention slaps, and attention points out the details and pokes and constrains. And um so yeah, the reparative experience of really learning as a group how we um cultivate a space where it's expected that at least that whatever shows up, whatever toddler tantrum needs to show up, whatever um yeah, gap and blank space, whatever beauty, that it's going to be held in, that like it's all welcome.
Mm, yes. I love how you just described all the other forms of attention. I think I'm so used to describing our agreements when I first enter, and it's one of them is we strive for unconditional positive regard with ourselves and others. Strive being the
Mm-hmm.
crucial word in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, because the reparative experience of being seen that way, or at least not even unconditional positive regard, but just like you're describing acceptance, is what uncouples being seen with a threat response or threat
Totally.
strategy. And it's
Totally.
like, unless you do it physically, experience, like, I'm being seen and I'm okay,
Hmm.
it's like that little over and over again, it's shifted the way I perform entirely.
Mm.
My
Mm.
relationship to audience is completely different,
Mhm.
in the most amazing, in a way that I didn't think was actually, that's why I never liked performing. Hated it. Never, I still to this day don't entirely enjoy it, but at least now it's not traumatizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you say more about how that shifted your relation to performing?
I think I don't, it's not that I assume there's unconditional positive regard. It's that I'm okay with whatever they have going on as witnesses. Like,
Hmm.
I've also increased my capacity to be with whatever their stuff is as a
Yeah.
mover being seen.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, like, totally get someone hating what they're seeing. Like, I almost am delighted by that too. Like, there's something about it doesn't feel personal. Maybe that's what it is.
I mean, it is contemporary dance.
Right? Entirely. Yeah,
Which who of us doesn't have a love hate with that, even if we're like deep in it?
exactly. Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And then I'm curious if there's a sense like as you name, it's doesn't matter as much like what their experience is. Do you feel like there's like an what's the word I want? Internalizing of some element of that positive regard, that unconditional
100%.
regard?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
becoming the witness that I'm used to feeling
Yeah.
inside an AM practice.
Yeah.
You know, these are
Yeah.
like the treasures I think that are hit on and spoken of, but I think in particular to performers who have a really complicated relationship with seeing and being seen. Like, it's
Oh yeah.
super deep and super interesting.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, my friend Luis Mojica and I are going to do an immersion for performers,
Mm,
like,
great.
about this very thing, because
Yeah.
it is so interesting. And unless you're really given time to explore it within that relationship of seeing and being seen, because you can explore it all you want in talk therapy, but when you are in pre-show, show, post-show, those,
Totally.
the
Totally.
waves of activation, and I mean, it's like it's right on that track.
Mm-hmm. And then the ways that part of the training is shape shifting inside of that, part of the like the ways that we've learned to um yeah, find a wide range of states while being activated, or have a huge amount of orientation and understanding of the sound cues and the light cues and where in space,
Yeah.
simultaneous with being in a really kind of whatever state the moment requires. There's a real layering of these kind of nervous system understandings that get spoken about in polyvagal theory and all these things. Well, what happens if that you're used to doing simultaneous with that and this other thing that doesn't usually go with it, but because you're in the um, amplification of the audience's eyes and in the heightened vigilance and altered state of performance. Yeah, it's a really complicated and fascinating um, learnings and layerings of the nervous system for
Mm,
performers. And I'm excited that y'all are
mm,
doing that. And I think of people that I know who have gone so deep into their roles that they've ended up with a level of PTSD coming out of it, not because of anything that happened in their life, but because of what was happening to them again and again on stage without enough transition time. So
yeah.
it's
Well, speaking to someone who has had to, like, heal quite a bit from performance in a particular vein, and like
yeah.
reclaim performance, which was a huge part of what I think been through in the last 3 decades. But yeah.
Lots of things moving.
Mm-hmm. I want to check the time for you. Okay,
It's
we're
doing the
good.
same.
I'm trying to feel into like what, because there's so many little pockets that I know I like want to drop into with you and hear about. And I'm like, what's here right now?
Yeah. I'd, I'd love to share one
Hmm.
frame that's been really generative for me that feels kind of adjacent to what we're talking about. Um, so one of the threads that's important to me is like I do have a pretty strong animist perspective. I'm really interested in the aliveness of the space around us, and um, that I'm, I would say I'm working to presence that more and more in my daily life. And there's a knowing about that feels pretty clear to me. And working with letting the space be part of the witnessing, letting the sky be part of the witnessing, and the sky again, that could be the distant sky or the sky that meets the contours of our body. Um, that's really been supportive for me in transforming my kind of post-performer nervous system, um, to really and also in just working with orienting with my SE clients, that okay, there's what happens when we see the space around us, and then what is the quality of our experience when we understand that we're being seen or smelled or heard. Um, so I just want to
Mm,
send that your way,
I
see what you
love
do
that.
with it.
Yeah. I did a few summers ago, I was in this course and I remember I did authentic movement outside with that as an idea. Like now and sharing time, like 5 minutes, 5 minutes, like I'll witness you.
Mm, mm,
Um and it is I mean, far easier for me without the historical human relationship pattern. But just thinking about the animist perspective in that and it having more than just a sort of neutral tone, but having more of a personality actually and information and like its own experience of me is like something I don't know that I've spent time with. And I'm thinking of you as a dad of a 2.5-year-old, like that's so handy to have animism because the strawberry rolls out of the bag and you're like, that strawberry just wanted to get out of there. Like you just, it's already right there. Like they are in it like that. It's
totally,
like, what a
totally.
great place to join.
Yeah, my child says bye to everything.
Yeah.
It's like a 5-minute process whenever we're leaving. Some bye-bye stones, bye-bye water, bye-bye trees, bye-bye tables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. We could use these adults could use a good dose of that. It's hard in an urban setting. I realize too that so
Yeah.
much of what my focus is on humans because there's a density of people that I'm interacting with or seeing or being with. And I require great solitude as well, I would say, in probably equal measure, but
Hmm.
my environment is filled with humans.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I'm struck whether it's this piece I'm naming now or whether it's just like the basics of orienting through the senses. Um, when I'm in like this room, there's not a lot to orient to. Like I have to practice it. Like I have to work at it to be like, what am I noticing now?
Mm,
And in a place where I'm surrounded by them more than human, and this call is talking to this call, and this gust of wind is happening, and then I'm seeing the ripples of that through the trees, or it's like you don't have to work at orienting. It's something that automatically happens because movement is so um, present, and that's perhaps true in a human environment as well. Um, Yeah, layered with whatever our relationship to city is, and to our sense of safety in that context.
Mm,
But yeah, I'm really interested in how much we kind of work to recreate these, risk saying, instinctual, um, ways of being a body inside of these kind of more static spaces
mm,
that we tend to occupy.
mm. Do you know the Movement Creative, the parkour, outdoor parkour company?
No.
Makes me think of that. You might be you'd have a good time with the founder, Jesse Danger. He's a friend of mine, but so much of his it's set in the city, but there's no location. So you meet at different parts of the city and they take
Uh,
kids to different parts of the city and it's always about interacting and relating to
mm,
environment, having a relationship
nice.
too. That's not about domination but it's
Yeah.
about integration
Hmm.
and moving with and finding and I mean it's like what dancers have known all along, but I was like, that's just site specific work that was done in like the 60s. But no, but it is become its own thing. And it's interesting, with kids and the development of that work around the mover role, I would say, where you're having to contend with risk analysis or how
Mhm.
do I feel about fear or being watched? Because there's often
Right,
people watching.
right, right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, to weave back to the performer conversation, it sounds like it's some in between ground where it's a kind of about being with or just exploring what's possible. And inherently there's a being seen component when you're acting outside of the social norms.
Mm, yeah. And we haven't even really touched on the element of improvisation, which is like, wait,
Yeah,
there's that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I always say my biggest SE teachers were my, improvisational dance teachers. It's Nancy Stark Smith and Nita Little. These are the people that taught me how to be in the gap and how to, orient to the unknown and the emergent. And um, yeah,
I mean, they were doing all this stuff. That's the part that's so exciting to me is I love hearing it come into um more, I would say activism language or culture change or culture creation language. Um but there's a part of me that's like it's not none of this is new. These ideas they're just being sort of translated and communicated into different rooms.
yeah, yeah. I sometimes say that, polyvagal theory is like it's like a talisman. The word is like a talisman to make it accessible to people who have a certain worldview. That it's still, soul retrieval work. It's still taking parts of us and bringing them back in. And by using the words of sympathetic and parasympathetic and dorsal vagal and, all these things, and it just, like you said, it gets to come into another room. It's gets a lab coat on so that certain people can kind of soften to it a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Should we bookmark?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel
this
like
is it.
I feel myself hesitating to start because I want to really be careful of your time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, I know we're like this is like the prequel to the series.
Great. That sounds great.
And
Yeah.
when is this new little being coming into the world, approximately?
Guest date is, the end of August.
Okay. So fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to finding out the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Somewhere
Like
around
talk
there.
about improv. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, congratulations and I hope that we speak before then. It seems kind of far
Yeah.
away. What do you have going on? Anything coming up that you want folks to know about?
It's so nice that I don't.
Summer.
I have my private client work, and I have these series that are winding down. That I'm done running things in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Too much erratic rhythms. So yeah, next big projects are about home.
Mm,
So
beautiful.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
so much,
yeah. Thank you for
Daniel.
this invitation. It was so pleasant.
So fun. Thank you to Daniel for so graciously making time for this. I know it wasn't easy. And anyone listening who has similar questions and quandaries, do yourself a favor and look him up. He has so much to offer and a ton of experience and wisdom to share. You can find Daniel at bodywisdomrestoration.com, also at thewellseedcenter.com, and at danielbeardavis.com. Thanks for listening.